especially in in a pub or whatever. If I do have the car, not that it happens like once a year. To be fair, I just find it a lot better than drinking Coke or Iron Brew or any other carbonated drink.
Well, also you end up drinking more Coke than you normally would.
Yeah,
and that's just not a great idea anyway, is it?
No,
you'll be up all night.
Exactly. Your teeth feel all weird and furry.
Speaking of being kept up all night and feeling all weird and furry, Little Nightmares 2. Finished it, haven't you?
I have finished it. I finished it on Sunday at the time of recording. It was a couple of days ago.
Nice. And you played it on Switch, right?
On the Switch.
Good old switcheroo. I played it on Google Stadia, the world's most powerful console.
You have to be one of the 5 people that have bought it on that.
It's free. You don't have to buy it on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I say it's free. It's part of the Pro subscription, which I got a 3-month trial of for free.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. I figured, why not? And it's the first game I've properly played on Stadia now. I'm finished. So,
what's it like? Just as a kind of, I don't know that much about it. Like Stadia, that is.
Yeah, it works well. Like when I played it on the TV, it was fine. I ended up finishing it on my mobile with the Stadia controller.
Yeah, okay.
And that was a bit more patchy in terms of connection, and I probably should have stopped.
Yeah.
When I'm right near the end, I want to finish it.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave it until later. So yeah, I just ended up doing that. But so that was fine. But the game itself, obviously we know what it is. And you, having played the first one,
yes,
know the franchise inside out.
I would describe it as a puzzle horror game. I don't know if that's even the correct way to describe it, but you play as a character and you go through a series of rooms solving puzzles as you go. Is how I would kind of describe it.
Like a puzzle platformer, but with horror elements.
Yeah.
The comparisons to Inside and Limbo.
I always hear about that comparison. Like I've not actually played either of those, but it is a comparison that's made quite a lot.
Yeah, I've only ever played Inside and loved it. I played it all in one sitting. Mm-hmm. It was so good, and that is what made me get this game. And I kind of just knew that they were similar.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They look similar. Like I've mentioned in the past that sort of Little Nightmares has that, and Little Nightmares 2 has that kind of aesthetic, like really sort of dark, dingy, sort of strange world that your character inhabits.
Yeah, and it is the same, and you don't really. I think the other thing they've got in common is there's no kind of story.
Yeah,
that there's nothing written down. There's no voice acting other than the odd "Hey."
yeah. Well, the story's kind of there, but it's vague and elusive,
open to interpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we'll get to that. I think inevitably we're going to end up doing some spoilery stuff,
of course,
on this podcast.
Yes,
but
I think so.
Before we get into that, we will give a warning. So if you don't want the game spoiled, we'll let you know before we spoil it.
Yeah,
we're not Laurie.
Well, we're already a few minutes into this and we've not spoiled it. If we were Laurie, it would have been the first thing out our mouth, I suppose.
We'll get Laurie to write the tweet for this episode, and it'll just be a pure spoiler. It's just ruined. What else? I think, again, another thing we should probably touch on before we get too deep into the game is we both picked up the TV edition.
We did indeed,
right?
Yes.
Well, you got it. And
you got FOMO.
Got FOMO and copied you. I ended up paying £15 more than you in the end, didn't I think?
Yeah, well, I got mine. I had pre-ordered mine from Shop2 for I think it was 40 quid. And Shop2 have this thing where if you don't get the game you pre-ordered on launch day, they'll give you a £5 credit. So 35 quid. Nice. Not bad.
Cashback.
Not bad.
That's good. I did this. I mean, I finished the game and then bought it.
Yeah.
Which seems ridiculous, but I think the game did have enough of an impact on me that I wanted the little statue that it comes with.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, because the amount of times that I kind of went on about Little Nightmares, the first one, I'm glad that now the second one's come out, and so there's like more of a group of us that are playing them. If you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm happy that you liked it enough to then. You played it for free, but you liked it enough to then spend more.
Yeah, I felt like I owed it. I owed it to the devs to do my part. I think it, sometimes when a game just hits you, particularly, I haven't been able to finish many games lately. So the fact that it took me 7 hours ish to finish.
Yeah, I think I'm about the same.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Because I was like, I'm sure I'd heard people saying that
2 run through 7 hours.
Yeah, full 100% completion. Yeah, no, that was just going as quickly as I could, and I was just dying a lot.
Yeah, I mean, in a kind of stark sort of comparison with the first game, I would say there's more in this one so it's kind of trial and error as you go anyway, but there's more in Little Nightmares 2 that would take you by surprise, so that you might not see a trap being there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where you have to die first and then work out how not to die, basically. Although I played about 10 minutes of the first game last night, and I'm already at that stage. I've died, and now I'm stuck in a room full of tar and slugs, and I don't know how to get out. It's like, oh. And then the game crashed, so that was a good excuse to stop.
Yeah, because I restarted it last night, the first one, and I know exactly the room you're talking about. You got to kind of run through these weird leeches before they grab you.
Yeah, horrible. But yeah, that physical edition is very cool. As we said, the little statuette thing of, is it Mono and Six?
Mono and Six,
characters?
yeah.
Which one's which?
6 is the one with the yellow raincoat.
Right.
Who's being pulled from the television.
Okay. So Raincoat and Baghead was the other one.
Yeah. So 6 is the protagonist for the first game.
Yeah. Cool. And that's the one in the first game you can use the Pac-Man amiibo to give her a new little Pac-Man hood, which I need to do. I meant to do that today so I could report back on it, but I have failed you.
Yep.
But yeah, have you looked through the art book yet?
So again, like on that TV edition, I didn't open up the art book, I didn't look at the art book properly because I didn't want any like enemy designs or locations or if there was any spoilers within that book. And I'd probably say that knowing what happens, the art book, there probably is some spoilers in there.
Yeah,
but it's a nice
I've only
thing.
had a quick flick through, but it's got enemies.
Yeah,
or if you can call them enemies, it's got characters that you encounter.
Yeah, and even that, I think I'd rather have seen them in the game first than in the book.
Yeah, and get properly freaked out by them when you first see them. Yeah. God, horrific. But yeah, really cool art style. I'm glad they included that. The one thing in the TV edition that is a bit weird is the steelbook. Yeah,
100% agree.
It's so strange, and I know you were talking about this on the last Crosscast, but it's not a Switch case steelbook like you would get with Mario 3D World. It's like a normal DVD size. Yeah, and then it's got the soundtrack in it.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, Because I remember I took it out of the box and I was like, oh, and I kind of opened it up. I was like, oh, it's a soundtrack that's in here.
Yeah.
It just seems like a strange choice.
It's odd. Like, I'd rather have had, well, the soundtrack as like a digital code or a CD and just a cardboard sleeve, and then have the steelbook of like a Switch case.
Yeah.
And also the design of it is like, I can understand what the pictures on the steelbook are now, having finished the game, but it doesn't like jump out as, oh look, that's a Little Nightmares steelbook.
Yeah. Know? What are the images? I forget. One of them is this sort of tall man.
Yeah.
At the end of the corridor, twisting round.
Yeah, and the other one is like the city with the tall building in the background.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's not easy to make out. They look kind of like, those cards that they hold up to see if you're a psychopath. And they go, all right, what do you see when you look at this? I see a tall man in a brimmed hat. Yeah. But yeah, a very cool pickup. I'm quite happy to have that on the shelf next to the Dead Cells prisoner guy.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah,
I'm pretty happy with that little statue. It's cool.
It is cool. All right, so let's get into the game itself. Start from the beginning, I guess.
Yeah.
I would probably say at this point, if you don't want the game spoiled, maybe just much like the game, tread with caution.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think we should be able to speak. We will speak freely from now on.
Yeah,
we're going full on Laurie.
Exactly. If you've got no intention of playing the game, then stick around. Maybe we'll change your mind. Maybe you just enjoy listening to us talking.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe.
So how does it start off? It starts off, you're by yourself.
Right? Yes.
So you're mono with a bag on your head.
Yep. And you're sat in the middle of sort of forest, some woods.
Yeah.
And having restarted it, it sort of fades up. You're sitting in the middle of the woods, and there's television on behind you that slowly goes off. Then you pick yourself up and you head to the right.
You know what? You say head to the right. I've been thinking this whilst playing it and playing Mario 3D World almost like on and off. Do you do that thing in all platformers where you go to the left first to see if there's like a hidden item?
Yeah.
Is that just a standard game? I think every single level.
Is it not Donkey Kong Country's fault?
Probably is, yeah. But even like Streets of Rage 2, remember like a couple of times you could go back, get some gold or get a chicken or an extra life or something. Yeah. Just like pressing A off screen to the left because you think there might be something there.
Yeah, something that you can just pick up.
Yeah. This game's probably only 2 hours long, but I did that on every fucking room.
Can I get through here? Nope. Get something back there? Nope. Yeah, so you and it's like the sort of the area is called the wilderness, and I guess it sort of serves as at least initially, the kind of tutorial area where you would be taught the buttons and kind of how the game is going to operate.
And it's pretty simple, right? The control wise, there's not that much going on. You've got your grab button on the right trigger.
Yep. Left trigger is crouch.
Run is Y, and then jump is B.
And then X, that's right. And X is sort of call out, so you can shout. Hey. Yeah.
Just like that. One thing about the controls, though, it is quite. You do have to be quite dexterous at times, don't you? To run, jump, and grab, like in one swift motion. Because there are a few parts where you're running away from stuff. Yeah. And you have to jump onto something and then pull yourself up. Mm-hmm. I think that is probably the game's biggest weakness. I would say is the controls. I think I found myself almost. They're not quite, and maybe that's a consequence of, as I said, playing Mario, which is obviously like the controls have been honed for generations. Yeah. But this just felt very much, because you are still, although it looks 2D, you are moving about in a 3D space.
Yeah, and I do agree with you there. the biggest drawback is that it can be slightly clumsy at times if you're not sort of dead on where you need to be.
I guess I would, if I was the dev, I would probably make up some bullshit like that was an artistic choice.
Yeah.
And we've taken inspiration from the original Resident Evil games, which were hard to control, and that adds to the tension somehow, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, but I had no, even if it is slightly clumsy or you need to operate a few buttons at the same time, it doesn't detract from the game, for me anyway.
No, it didn't really. I think what it does do though is those big moments that we'll come to that really freak you out.
Yeah.
The more you repeat them, obviously that effect gets lessened quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're repeating them because, well, I keep missing this jump because I can't quite tell where I am in the depth of field, then it becomes a bit like, well, you're not scary anymore. I just need to get this jump right.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a shame because in the moment when you're trying to escape said grotesque figure, that's brilliant. But then when you've done it 10 times in a row, it's just like, oh, piss off.
So I wonder if I've got a specific moment for that, and I wonder if you are speaking about the same bit.
Well, go on. Let's. I mean, we've given a spoiler warning.
Yeah. So again, this is not. I was kind of skipping past the first section, but I think it's in the second section in the school where you come out of a vent, you drop down, and you hit a floorboard, and bottles are on it, and the bottles drop onto the floor. And it's the teacher that's in there with the neck, the head that'll extend up. You go and you run and you hide in a box. Then you go around a beam and come back on yourself, and there's like some blankets that are tied together that you have to climb up. Judging where that was for me, I was like, is that here? And I kept on jumping off and missing it, but it's really close in the foreground. I'm guessing it's not the same bit that you're talking about.
No, it wasn't that bit actually. That doesn't jump out. I remember the bit you're talking about though, and you have to kind of creep round the planks.
Yeah.
To get but no, not that bit. It's more just there was a bit. We are jumping around a lot here, but there's a bit in the hospital where is it the hospital or a prison? The prison is part of the hospital, isn't it? There's like a cell.
Yes.
I may be misremembering. But anyway, there's a bit where you're running towards camera, which is always shit anyway in the 3D platformer. Like Crash Bandicoot style, running towards camera.
Yeah.
And you've got a load of hands coming out, trying to grab you. And judging that, like, okay, I need to turn left here because you're coming straight at the camera. That was quite annoying, and I must have done that 10, 15 times to get that right. Yeah, because that's right at the start of that sequence, and then you can quite easily die in the next bit as well, even if you make it past that bit. So,
yeah, that's right, actually.
There's bits like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that first bit,
the
kind of intro, and then, so you're sort of creeping about. I don't think you meet 6. Do you meet 6 first or after the first kind of... Is it a boss? Is that guy, Shotgun Man, a boss?
So you meet your way through the wilderness. You sort of get your sort of button prompts, and then you go into the house where you hear the sort of music. You're like on a little. It almost sounds like it's on a baby piano or whatever, but it's one of these like music boxes. You make your way down the stairs, and you see 6 in the room spinning that music box thing. And you have to break that door down to get her out, and she runs away. Yes,
that's it. So you haven't met the guy yet.
You've not met the guy yet, no. You meet her first.
Yeah. And then do you kind of befriend... You save her, don't you? Can't remember.
You free her from that room. She shoves past you and runs up the stairs. You follow. And then you sort of team up to get a ladder down to get into the attic.
That's the one. And then, it's just like... And you can hear... I think the sound design in this is really good. You mentioned the music, which is just pure creepiness, particularly because They kind of do that Breath of the Wild thing where there's quite long periods without any music.
Yes.
And then when it kicks in, it has more impact.
Mm.
And it's the same with sound effects. You know, you're hearing a lot of just your own footsteps. And then you'll just hear like some flies buzzing. Or you'll hear some like sort of scraping and dragging or chopping noises.
Like muffled sort of cries in the background or whatever. So like at that point when the ladders come down, there's like a lot of, when the ladders make the noise, there's a lot of like moving around, like someone's getting up off their seat and going, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
You can hear that, like someone is now being alerted to you. Like at that point you don't see anybody, but someone has been alerted to your kind of presence.
Yeah, that's freaky. And it turns out that it is that, well, all the kind of the other characters other than Mono and Six are kind of hideously disfigured and elongated, aren't they?
Yeah, and it almost seems like it's the kind of kids are like relatively small and all the adults are like just grotesque. Like something's going on, something's happened to make them the way they are.
Is that supposed to be like, I guess it's open to interpretation, is that supposed to be like a kid's eye view of scary grown-ups?
Yeah, that's probably a good show actually. I hadn't thought about it like that, because everything is far too big for them, so much so that they can creep through air vents relatively easily, just crouching down a little bit. But yeah, it's, I hadn't thought about it like that before.
Yeah, because they're all just massive, aren't they?
Yeah,
like that guy is huge.
Yeah. Well, I think I read something that when the devs were first quizzed about the first game, is that you're not. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it's like it's not like it's a kind of survival horror or whatever in the same sort of sense as Resident Evil, but it's to be thought of as more of a game of hide and seek.
Yeah.
How you're kind of like creeping about, trying not to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they played hide and seek when they were kids. Fucking hell. Yeah, it is, and even that first bit has got a lot of that. He's shining a torch. He's got a shotgun. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of do the stealth thing, hide behind barrels and boxes and stuff, and stay out of his torch beam. Because if you don't, then he basically shoots you. Yeah, and yeah, by the end of it, there's a few kind of chase sequences, and then a couple of more stealthy ones, which it does a good job of teaching you all the stuff that you'll need to know for the rest of the game. Really, isn't it? Which is pretty good because it's quite short, this first sequence, as I recall.
It's probably I'd reckon it's the shortest of the 4 or 5 areas you go through. Yeah, maybe excluding the last one, but
then you manage to get past him in a fairly emphatic and triumphant fashion. Yeah, which is pretty cool, solidifying your bond with Six. Yeah, by shooting him in the face.
And I tried this out again, did that bit last night, and tried to get back through. Because
I tried that. Yeah,
you're sort of running away, and you get through a door. You jump up in a box, get a shotgun or whatever it is off the hook, off the gun rack, and you both sort of operate it and shoot the guy. But I tried to get back through to see if there's anything there, but you can't get back through. You can only keep going. It urges you to continue.
See, and I thought from that first, because there is kind of combat in this game, isn't there? I mean, there's you're not completely helpless. Where that's kind of what my expectation was, certainly from playing Inside and what I thought I knew about the first Little Nightmares. Mm-hmm. I thought I'd just be running away from stuff constantly.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's the same amount of combat in the first one. In fact, I'm struggling to remember if there is any. Because in the second one, you, as Mono, can like lug around axes and pipes to
big
smack
hammers and stuff.
folk about the head with or whatever. That doesn't happen in the first game. From memory, I can't think of a time when that takes place.
Yeah, I was quite pleasantly surprised by that. And the other thing that another clever thing that it did, and it's not even that clever. I'm sure games must have done it before, but having to jump up and down on stuff to dislodge it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done that in a video game before. Like in that kind of, like obviously in platforming you can kind of, do like a butt stomp or something like that. But doing the repeated jumping up and down to kind of almost physics-based puzzles at sometimes. So I thought that was pretty cool. As just something different.
Just different.
I don't remember seeing before.
I think the first time that you're standing on like a trap door or something like that, and you're both. I think 6 starts jumping on it first. I can't remember. I think 6 will jump on it first, and you go, "Oh, okay. Do we both need to jump on this to break through?" It's quite cool.
But that mechanic of the two of them is really nice as well, isn't it? Because you do feel like you've got someone there helping you, and sometimes a bit too much. Like there were times where I was like, let me work this out for myself, and she would just go up there and gesture to lift me up.
Yeah, I mean, there are times like I'm like, how am I supposed to get past this? And I guess if you don't stand in the right place, she won't then hold her hands out for you to get a footy up or whatever. So I guess you need to be in the right place for her to do that. But I think the interaction between them both, how you can kind of call out to each other, how you can hold hands and run, or hold hands and stand still or whatever. I thought that was quite nice because it's like, again, in the first section it tells you to do that, but I forgot. And I was in this sort of schoolyard and I just hit the back bumper. The back trigger, and I was like, "Oh, they're holding hands. That's cool." And I was like, just these two little kids running around the park, holding hands.
I did that so much.
Yeah,
holding hands thing, just because I was like, I'd quite like to hold someone's hand right now. I bet you're scared too. Yeah, it's a nice little touch. Nice little touch. Yeah. So what's the section after that?
I think it's the school. So you go, you jump, once you're out of the shack where you shoot the hunter, you jump on a door, and the door takes you across a body of water, and you are...
That's quite a long sequence.
It is a long sequence, yeah.
I remember thinking, is this right? Is this supposed to be happening? Because you're floating along the water for a long time.
What I thought at that point was, am I going to get like Little Nightmares 2 coming up?
Yeah,
almost like the first little bit was like the prologue or whatever. I thought I was going to get like a sort of logo splash at the top of the screen. Yeah, but you sort of wash up on the shore off the Pale City.
Is that what it's called? So you know all the names. You've done your research.
Oh, I've done it. Little bits and pieces. First thing I read, Pale City, write that down.
Nice. That'll make me sound clever. But when you approach that, when you're coming up to shore and the kind of massive looming buildings almost just leaning over the water, that was quite a bit like... I think that's the first time you get a sense of the scale of, wow, this is... Yeah,
it's a really cool... as a setting, it's really, really cool. I kind of wish you could go into more... Like if the game is longer or whatever, you could go into more of the sort of buildings, or there was other ways to explore, because you're kind of gated off on that sort of path of you just keep going right. If you try and go back, there's like a big sort of trench you can't actually get past. So it's like, I just want to go for a wander. I want to see what's up there. But yeah,
I want it to be Hollow Knight.
Yeah. What if I hit on this door? Can I push up? Try to push on more or less every single door to see if I could get into the building. But yeah.
Because there's shit you can find, isn't there? There's stuff like collectibles. Yeah. Which, is kind of a reward for going off the beaten path a little bit. So you can get hats.
Hats, yep. So I think there's 9 or 12 hats. I can't remember.
Okay.
One
How
of
many
them
did you find?
Now you're asking a question. I think I found 6 or 5 or something like that. Did you find?
I found 2.
I guess you found the one before you meet 6. One
in a box that's like suspended.
The yellow one
from a tree or something. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one. I think there's one.
Yeah, I found
one
that.
before that. The one before that as well.
No idea what you're talking about. I found that, and I think I found a police hat later on or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I found that. So the one before you meet 6. There's actually one in that schoolyard on where the sort of stairs are going into the school. There's like a bin, and there's like I was like, is that a rock? Can I throw that rock through a window or whatever? Because obviously when you see rocks, that's what you think, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to tan that
in a
window.
Schoolyard.
And it's a hat. Yeah, and there's also, I'm going to get their name right. Glitching remains,
right?
Or what you can find, and it's
you
like
go up to them and you have some sort of seizure. And
you can absorb their. I don't know. You absorb them. It's a bit strange.
Soul.
Yeah.
Like Shang Tsung or Kirby.
Yeah, or Kirby, just like Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the. I'd say those are the kind of collectibles. The 2 of them.
So in the school itself, you've got. This is where, I mean, calling it combat is a stretch, but there's like little kids, little bullies that kind of chase after you.
Yeah.
Made of porcelain or china or something.
Saying that, I thought there was something wrong with the game when I first played it, because it gets to a bit and there's a lot sort of run out, and there were some with their heads weren't all there, and I was like, the game's not loaded in their heads. It's like there's it's a little bit of a glitch. It's not ready, and then I realised that they weren't actually people.
Just had their heads smashed in.
Just had smashed in heads.
Nice. Yeah, so that was creepy. I think when I first kind of encountered them, that was probably the creepiest bit. And I think you get separated from 6 in the school as well, don't you?
Yeah.
You get taken off.
Yeah, you have to walk into the corridor and someone pushes a school locker on top of you, and the rest of the guys jump 6 and drag her off.
Yeah. And that immediately makes things, you suddenly don't feel as comfortable.
Yeah.
Everything just feels a bit more scary. No one's hand to hold. And then you encounter the teacher.
Yes.
Who was, proper, like, nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Freaky.
It's just, I guess you kind of, as well as having a neck that extends forever, kind of reminds me of old sort of primaries, like old school primary school teachers or whatever. She reminds me of a teacher who was old when I was at school. That kind of really authoritative,
like almost Victorian. Yeah, really. And it's trying to keep away from a guy with a torch and a gun is one thing. Trying to keep away from a teacher who's got a never-ending neck.
Yeah. And I guess the first time you sort of meet her, you can hear her writing on the board. And I guess that's a kind of, I don't know if it's the first example of it in the game, but it gives you a kind of audio cue of when you can move. Of course, you'll be like, and it'll be like a sort of that stop. It's when she's going to turn around, look at her book, and then turn back again. You can walk, roughly how long you've got and when to try and be hidden.
And that's a good cue for when you get to the end of that level, and it's basically the same thing again, but she's playing a piano.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you can tell it starts slowing down ever so slightly, and that's when she's about to stop and then have a look around.
That was a bit
big
like,
old neck.
For that bit, I was like, because you drop down, 6 is left at the top, you lower the winch down or whatever, she jumps on, and I walked back across, and I was like, I can't get up that, and then I sort of looked back at the piano, and there's a little stool sitting next to the teacher.
Yeah,
I was like,
right next to her.
No chance, no chance. Am I going to get that?
Just on your way, 6. I'll just stay here and die.
You okay?
Yeah. But you make it out, and then the bit where you're going through the vents.
That is, I mean, I think I seen you mention it, that you'd taken quite a lot of screenshots. Now I took a good few screenshots at that point.
Yeah, it's just Yeah, I mean, just horrific.
Yeah.
So she basically sticks her head through the vent, and then her head is just following you.
Yeah.
With her horrible neck.
Like
I think I did that bit first
head.
time though.
Yeah. Like
which
crushing her head
glad.
through that vent. Just this, and it's like it's not. She doesn't have an evil face. It's just this kind of weird smile that she's got.
Yeah.
And it's just, I remember I kind of got out that vent, paused it, and I think you had tweeted about it, and I went just in the bit before this, horrific.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely horrible. And then when you make it out, so that bit I think that I tweeted was them walking over a bridge, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's sort of reminiscent of the bit where you're going over the lake or the river. There's a bit of calm, and it shows a nice kind of it's a bit of breathing space between. They're kind of discrete levels, aren't they? You play the whole thing through. It's not like it goes, congratulations, you finished level 2.
Yeah.
It's all one big sequence. But yeah, that seemed like the defining point. And then the next part you get to, is it the hospital next?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Where were we in the hospital? I think the hospital one probably was the one I enjoyed the least. I think that felt a bit long.
I was going to say, I think that by a good long sort of chunk, by a good margin, is the biggest section. And it has a lot of stuff. But there's bits in that, and you know what's going to happen. And you think to yourself, I can just stand here and like let it not happen. I can just stand here forever.
I guess you're specifically talking about the mannequins.
Yes.
Coming to life. And you know it's going to happen. And you're like, well, they haven't come to life yet.
Yeah.
They definitely will at some point.
Because they're dotted around for a good portion of that, and they're like, there's nothing really happening. And then you get to a point where you're in a room, and I remember looking at the one that was strapped to the table, and I was like, probably going to happen around now.
Yeah.
And then it kind of struggles, and then the hand breaks free.
Yeah.
And that's kind of...
Oh yeah, and you have to smash up a few hands, don't you?
Yeah. I'd say that's probably like a sub boss of that area is the hand, because it chases you for a good for a few rooms anyway.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? So the kids, you can smash them with just like one hit, the porcelain kids, but the hand you have to hit 3 times.
Yeah,
which is a hand.
Video game logic.
A child. Weird. That's just reminded me of one other thing about those porcelain children as well. The ones that are sort of tied up with a dunce cap on. Yeah. And it's just there's like just chalk marks where it's been drawing on the floor. Yeah. And that shows like the range that it can go, like how far it can stretch.
I hadn't actually considered that that's what that was.
Yeah, I thought that was really clever. It's like, okay, so I know what my safe zone is.
Yeah.
So if I want to get something, I have to kind of go into that chalk area. I thought that was really horrible, but quite clever at the same time.
I was too busy trying to smack the thing with a pipe.
just absolutely just barreling through it. But yeah, there's no way of killing the mannequins, is there? But you've got a torch by that point.
Yes, you pick up the torch,
and they don't like that for some reason.
See, that's the thing. Is like because in the first game you have when you play as 6, you have a lighter. You can use to light the way, and I was like, do I not have a... Started this one, I was like, do I not have like a light source or whatever? And so when I finally got the torch, I was like, good. I can now feel a bit sort of safer for some reason. But yeah, so when light shines on the mannequins, they stop moving. Yeah.
But when you're surrounded by them, you have to kind of frantically... That's probably... a very minor gripe was those parts felt a little bit Luigi's Mansion-esque.
Yeah, I get that.
Just like, okay, so I have to do the right stick and the left stick at the same time, point up, it just... Yeah. It didn't feel perfect. It didn't feel kind of intuitive. It was kind of like, I'm just about getting by here.
I know what you mean. And that, sort of the end of that sort of section... is probably, I'd say that's maybe my least favourite bit, because it's almost like there are too many of them coming for you. Yeah. From all over, and you're like, frantically circling, trying to stop them.
having said that, though, I think I got past that first time, that bit, because I think I did just make a direct beeline and was just frantically just pointing the torch everywhere, and that seemed to do the trick. But then you have to be a bit more methodical as you kind of get to the end of that level, and it's the big old fat bloke that crawls on the ceiling, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was like some big slug, but I checked what his title is, and he's the Doctor. That's his name. So he must make these sort of things.
Yeah, and he's kind of like going in, checking in all the hospital beds and sawing off limbs, and it's very weird.
Picks his nose.
Does he?
Yeah, picks his nose and like wipes it on some of the mannequins.
I didn't notice that. Well, that is...
I noticed it because I was cowering under a hospital bed for about 5 minutes at one point. I was like, what's he going to do?
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's definitely more... It's more gross and freaky than it is scary, isn't it? Like, I scare pretty easily, and at no point did I feel like I can't play this anymore. It's just weird.
I think the first game's probably scarier.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if it sort of taps into like people's fears or whatever, but I think there's more in the first game that I would find frightening than in the second game. And I even got that last night when I was playing the first one. I was like, just jump back into the first one again, just as a direct comparison between the new one I've just finished and the older one that I played for quite a big bit a year or so ago. But yeah, I think there is more in the first game that is frightening.
Right. Maybe I shouldn't play that then.
No, I think you should.
No. Yeah. Thanks. But yeah, so you get past him, the Doctor. I can't really remember. I think there's quite a bit of verticality in getting away from him, isn't there? Kind of climbing up shelves and over stuff and under stuff. Yeah,
I can't remember if it's before you meet him, but you have to like kind of platform up beds suspended near an elevator shaft.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't remember. You kind of when you get through a door and he starts chasing you, and that's when you're kind of running underneath beds towards. Well, to go back a part. There's a section sort of mid level that teaches you what you should do at the end of that. So you need to find a key, and the key is inside something. So you get that sort of X-ray section, and you pick up a bear or whatever, and the key's in the bear, and you take the bear downstairs and put it in a furnace. So the end of the level
that's it.
is the Doctor chasing you. You run into the furnace, he follows you. 6 closes the door, and you crawl out the little vent, turn the furnace on, and that's done.
Barbecued Doctor.
Yeah, I was like, can I go back in there? I tried to go back in the vent, and you can't.
Yeah. I can see why you like it. You're a sick man. Yeah, that was actually a really strong end to what I thought was a kind of overly long section.
Yeah.
And then the next bit, how would you describe it? Is there an official name for the area?
I think there's the Pale City, like the setting, but I think it's the Pale City, the level. This is going off of what it says on the wiki,
right?
On the fandom page.
It's the bit where you get the remote control, isn't it? Next.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and you can basically get this new power to transport yourself between TVs. In fact, at the end of every section, you have this little episode where you go into a TV, don't you? And you're trying to get towards a door. I think, isn't that basically the end of every level? So you go into a TV and you're walking away from camera.
And yeah, that's that. Because it is when you go into the television and you're walking towards the door where you eventually find out that's where the tall man's sitting.
Yeah.
Is it towards the end of each level? I can't remember.
I think it is. I think it's between each section. There's a TV, and then you go into it, and then do that bit. But yeah, and then TVs really come. There's a lot of TVs. There's also a lot of shoes just knocking about in the whole game, isn't there? Which I found very strange.
Yeah, there's lots of just like discarded clothes and just shit lying around.
Yeah.
But on the TVs, if you think back to when we first started speaking about the wilderness, the camera sort of fades up, and the TV, you actually hear a thump before you can see what's happening on screen, and then the TV fades to off. So in theory, Mono has come flying out of that television at the very start of the game.
Yeah, which makes sense at the end.
Yeah,
I guess. As much as this game makes sense, but I think this is quite a cool section. The TV mechanic going, having the remote control that you can switch on a TV, and that allows you to then travel into one and then pop out in the other.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can also use it to distract these adults that just freakishly just stand and stare at a TV.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's some sort of commentary on society or something.
Perhaps,
maybe, no.
Perhaps, yeah. Let's phone them there.
Let's phone a friend. But yeah, and that's quite clever, because I think that's probably my favourite of the puzzle mechanics. I kind of got to that bit. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Didn't feel too scary. I think because you've literally got the control in your hands, I always felt like I could work things out quite easily, and if I needed to distract someone, then I could. Yeah,
that's quite cool. Right. I think the best sort of TV transition in that, I think I died the first time. You sort of jump through the TV and you just plummet down between the buildings, but you go out after I died, I went out, pushed the telly off the side of the balcony, and once it's down there, it shoots you into a window. Yeah, because it's sort of hanging off its wire, isn't it? And then it facing the opposite direction, it shoots you off. Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of kind of elevator shaft bits as well. That one of them I got stuck on for ages. That's the closest I came to looking up what I was supposed to do. It ended up being something really simple, but is it when you jump on the top and then it goes, because it's like 3 stories? 3 stories. You're trying to get to the middle story. Yeah. So that took me a while, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, I can't remember how you end that level. You get to look through my screenshots. You get to a point. Tell me if you see anything. You get to a point where you go back into one of the televisions and you reach, as in not you go into one of the televisions not as like a transition to a different area or a different part of the level. You go into the televisions like who we mentioned. You go into TV at the end of each stage, and you get to the door at the end. You open the door and the tall man stands up and starts chasing you down the corridor. Yeah, he gets out and steal and kidnaps 6. And then it really gets quite literally nightmarish, doesn't it? It just feels, it's a lot more trippy, and the whole fucking thing's trippy, but you almost have like a standoff with him, don't you? Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, if you listen to this and you don't know what the game is and you've not looked up screenshots now, the Thin Man, think of Slender Man, looks almost the same in design kind of terms, but with a fedora hat. I see, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, it's Freddy Krueger. Oh, really? Yeah. It's like, oh, because he, like, his silhouette with the fedora kind of just looked like a big elongated Freddy Krueger to me. But so yeah, you kind of him coming at the screen reminded me of The Ring, because like basically claws there's a lot television. But you sort of face off with him, don't you? And you after you've done like a, somehow have this power of sort of bending. It's like he puts his hand out, and you kind of lean the same way, and you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something that he doesn't like. Yeah, he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it up him. See, all bullies are really just scared, aren't they? Yeah. So you end up sort of repelling him, and I thought that was the end of the game. Then I was like, sweet, I've beaten him. Yeah. I'll go and find my mate, and then happy days. Yeah. Not to be. Nope. You kind of walk forward. It's weird because after that bit where you beat the tall man, all the houses straighten up. Yeah. And you sort of walk towards the signal tower, which is the last section, and in there's some really weird like temporal puzzles you got to do, like go through a door, but you come to. It's like Scooby-Doo. Think of it like Scooby-Doo, going through a door and coming through like another door.
It was like a less annoying Lost Woods from a Zelda level. Like, I hate those sections of any like. That is one video game mechanic I absolutely despise. Whenever I get to a section where it's like, right, you have to find the right door to get through.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll just come back on yourself. But this, because again, there's an audio cue.
I'm going to say it's very much like Lost Woods from Ocarina of Time when you follow the audio.
Okay. Yeah. So that's basically the music, and it is that kind of like a child's piano.
It's
like a toy piano, isn't it? Playing.
Yeah. It's the same song from the first stage.
Yeah. But the frequency will sort of turn up so you can hear more of the music if you're going closer to the correct door. Yeah. And I think once you figure that out, that sequence is relatively easy.
Yeah.
But then you find 6 again.
Yeah.
And she is hunched around this what is it, a music box?
I think that's the best way to describe it. It is like a little sort of tin music box.
Yeah. And she is
I'm sure it has a
massive.
proper name.
She's like a big sort of King Kong size.
Yeah. Just like weird sort of distended limbs and just massive. Just massive.
Yeah, that's massive. And then after a fashion, you end up kind of smashing the music box.
Yeah. Did you call out to her when you first seen her? I hit X to go, hey! And she sort of like cowers back and drags the music box in closer.
Yeah, I thought I called out, and that's why when she released the music box.
No, I don't know.
I can't remember.
No.
But anyway, there was a lot of shouting and a lot of trying to smash the music box without getting flattened by your best friend.
Yeah, so you kind of you hit it once and then kind of all shit gets let loose. Yeah. I found this section quite difficult. I think it's so you're then gonna. I think you need to do I think you need to run away from her again. I've not done this. I've only done this but once. I've only got to this sort of second stage on my second playthrough. You got to do a bit of platforming. I can't remember exactly, but you basically get to a point where 6 is in a room and there are a number of doors that you need to go through to come out the other side to hit the music box. Now there's 1 and you've got 4 doors, like 2 on each side, and I just kept on getting flattened by her. I think it's the last one. Like the pipe is on the plinth
right next to her almost. Yeah.
I
didn't find that bit too bad. But when I was talking about the platforming being less than kind of precise earlier, it was the following bit where you're running away from this sort of blob.
Yeah. So that's the. You beat 6 and then she goes back to normal, and then both of you run away. So to go back to the art book, the cover of the art book is this. It's mono, and then all around is this blob with lots of eyes. It kind of reminds me of Eternal Darkness. There was an enemy in Eternal Darkness that had loads of eyes dotted around.
Right.
But yeah, it kind of is the buildings crumbling behind you. And it's kind of just chasing you, and the floor's coming up, and just everything's coming for you.
So that's where I found like there's a bit where the floor's sort of splits, and you have to make a jump, but you have to kind of delay your run a little bit, which feels very unnatural when there's a gigantic blob with eyes really close to you.
Yeah,
you can't just run and jump. You have to kind of stop for a second, wait for the floorboard to go closer to 6 so that she can kind of grab your hand.
Yeah.
And I died several times then because every fibre of my being was like, right, just keep pressing to the right and keep jumping.
Keep going. Don't slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you make it out of that section.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6, you have to do a big old jump.
Yeah. So there are parts throughout the game where you jump across like a chasm or whatever, and 6 will hold out her hand, grab you, and drag you up. And it's like, oh, it's that again.
Yeah. But
Yeah, you're
It
dangling there, and she just fucking lets you go.
She lets you go deliberately.
Yeah,
lets you go, and then walks off to freedom herself
through a television. Is it through a television? She walks through some strange bit of static.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was just a doorway or a television, but yeah, it's light sort of signifying the end. And you think that you're both going to go through it, and then she just ends up fucking off by herself
just
and leaving
toddling
you
off on her own
to plummet down. Basically, don't you land on like the blob with the eyes, or whatever that material is, and then you eventually find a chair, and you sit on that chair.
You do,
and then time passes, and you see yourself getting bigger and older, and then more and more time passes, turn into a teenager, and then into an adult, and then you find that you have become
you are the tall man.
Tall man. And that when that bit happened, like you could see it coming just from the way that the shot was set up. But I was like, okay, that's cool. That's very, very cool. I thought that was an awesome ending.
Yeah, it didn't help me understand. I was like, what how, and is that why when you are kind of repelling the tall man just before you go into the signal tower, does that have anything to do with it? I mean, I think that kind of the underlying story that you don't really... The story is probably told through the posters on the walls in some of the locations or kind of the drawings that NPCs or characters have done. That's probably explained somewhere in that game in a really obscure way.
Yeah, I guess... So my immediate reaction to it was like, right, so he's now got this sort of hatred, this festered hatred over years and years and years, because he's just been left to die, and that's why he's like pursuing Six. And then I didn't clock. I mean, the good thing is you started the game again, but I didn't clock that you come out of a TV at the start of the game.
Neither did I, because I don't think it's just the start of the game, you're not going to pick up on these things. But it's kind of, whenever I finish a game that I've really enjoyed and I want to know more about it, I'll almost immediately jump online to read about it. That's just what I like doing. It's almost like I'm in denial about finishing it. And they mentioned the fact that you are thrown out the television at the very start. That you can
almost like it's playing with time.
Yeah.
And that's what the kind of the TVs in the game play with time and space, don't they?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does she leave you to die because she knows what you're going to become?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Or does she just... Is she just kind of a bitch?
She's a double hard bastard is Six.
Yeah. And then this is like the prequel, right?
Yeah.
So what happens in Little Nightmares 1?
So yeah, I'd kind of, when I started the game, I spent a long time going, where's our yellow raincoat? And even that wasn't enough to kind of make me twig that it wasn't that it wasn't a sequel. I was like, how did you get here from the mall, from the area you are, from the location of the first game? But you'd find the rain jacket, the raincoat eventually.
I just assumed, okay, she's lost it. She hasn't gained her yellow rain jacket, like she hasn't got it back yet. But maybe she never had it at all.
Yeah.
If this is a prequel. Yeah.
So apart from that, there's nothing really, unless you 100% the game, that would give away that it's a prequel. So what happens? You need to find all of the glitching remains, and if you do that, there is a post-credits scene that is, I think it's.
Have you watched it?
I've not watched. Again, I've read about it. I've not watched it. I want to, even though I've read about it, I want to get all the glitching remains, or what it's called. I'm sure it's that. To see it myself. I don't feel that I've spoiled it for myself. And like you're sort of so you know how, oh man, I don't even know how to explain it because I've not seen it again, just going on what I've read. Your like glitched remains is pointing towards a poster, and that poster is for the maw where the first game's set, and so your stomach starts to rumble is what happens. So there's a lot of the first game is 6. She'll start doubling over because she's so hungry.
Right.
And there's a lot of eating in the first game. Not necessarily from her, but there is a lot of eating that goes on.
Nice. Oh yeah, I can remember seeing like videos of like a kitchen. There's a chef or something in it, isn't there?
Yeah, there's like chef twins, and then like one of the last areas is you're in the sort of dining area, and it's just these massive people that are just like stuffing their face. That'll just like they'll catch you and they'll like slop onto the ground and sort of crawl the way towards you.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely play the first game now. As I say, I kind of started it last night. One thing that jumped out, going from playing 2 first, is the visuals. I don't know if it's just because I went from playing on Stadia, the world's most powerful console, to playing on Nintendo Switch. But
50 quid. That's 50 quid right there because you said that.
Yep. Keep paying me, Google. But there was a definite visual downgrade. Like stylish, it's still really stylish, but it seemed a lot more sort of grainy.
Yes, agreed.
But that's not a bad thing. But and that's the only thing I really noticed that's kind of stood out, other than the fact it crashed on me randomly.
Yeah, I don't know how it would crash, but the second game's definitely far smoother. There's no question of it there. I don't know what the frame rates are. I don't care. I don't care basically. Yeah, there is one kind of quality of life improvement that I did note, that in the first game, if you have like a door to unlock, you need to carry the key. So it's like you are like physically carrying the key. So you have to sort of keep your your finger on that back trigger. Whereas in Little Nightmares 2, you get the key and you
pocket it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice. I remember when the first time I picked up a key, I thought, oh great, now I'm going to have to lug this around.
Yeah.
And you don't. It just plays that nice, satisfying little noise, and then you just put it in your pocket, which is good. But yeah, I'll happily play Little Nightmares 1. Would you rate 2 above 1? I
don't know, because
would you say
1 is, for me, 1 is bundled in with all that DLC.
Right.
So there's one is sort of the DLC's. There's a character called the Kid that story runs concurrently with 6's, which is quite good.
Yeah. So I noticed. I didn't even realise that when I went to start it yesterday.
So there's
gave me a choice of 2 characters.
Yeah. So there's two sort of stories to play through. The DLC in the first one's pretty scary, I'd say. The DLC is probably freakier than the main game, I think. Anyway.
Which is then obviously freakier than 2.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm probably going to say that I prefer 1 over 2, but the margin is so slight, and even I'm probably going to end up classing it as one game, one kind of experience.
Well, yeah, I mean it's about 10 hours all in, isn't it? Both games.
Yeah, I mean once you've got through it the first time, you know what you're doing. Nothing's really going to sort of hold you back. You don't have to go, how am I going to get past this room? You might forget, but it should come back to you eventually. So I'm going to consider it as one. It's not one game. I'm cheating, but I'm going to consider it as one kind of playing experience.
But it is one story, I guess, as well.
Yeah,
and it probably is the last.
Yeah, that's what
game that they'll do, right? If reports are to be believed.
Yeah, so I was just to say that it's sad that Tarsier, who are the developers, are not going to do any more. Bandai Namco, who are the publishers, plan to do more, but that development team, I think, have done a great job on those 2 games, and I am sad that they're not doing any more. Though at the same time, excited to see what they do next.
Yeah. I mean, imagine them, like you said, their world building is like top drawer. Imagine them doing a Hollow Knight style game, something like a really dense Metroidvania.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, in both these games, they've got that aesthetic nailed. That sort of dark, sort of cramped, sort of claustrophobic atmosphere that you don't really know what's going to happen.
But you just want to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if they could work on their platforming a little bit, then I think they can make a decent sort of 2D platformer.
Yeah. I mean, it's 2.5D. That's the...
It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
3 dimensions. Yeah. But no, it's good. What would you, if you had to, you know, if I put an axe to your head and you were made of china, what would you have to give it out of 10?
9.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I don't think it's... I'd go in increments of 0.5 and give that a 9 and give the first one a 9.5.
Bloody hell.
I think it's... I mean, you can get into the conversation of as soon as anything sort of strays below an 8, you're like, well, I don't think I'm going to bother. That's the day and age we live in. So yeah, I think it's comfortably, for me, a 9 out of 10 game. I was thinking last night, I was like, is this one of the best games I've played on Switch? I think so.
Wow. There you go. I think, I'd probably go for an 8. It's definitely up there.
No, you're wrong. It's a 9.
I'm just not as easily pleased as you. You know, more sort of discerning palate. But yeah, very cool game, and I would recommend it to anyone. Obviously, you don't need to play it now if you've just listened to us talk about it, because you now know everything you need to know.
No, you need to go and experience that yourself. If you've enjoyed listening to us, then go and play it. Play the first one, play the second one. There's also a mobile game that I've not played yet, but it's called Very Little Nightmares, and it's set before 2 and 1. So I guess it's part of 6's journey towards the maw.
So it's set after 2 and before 1? Yeah. Ooh, interesting.
So I don't know, I mean, it was released after the first one. That's a massive assumption. Released after the first one, and I don't know much about it.
I've never even heard of it. Finally, a mobile game worth playing, maybe.
Perhaps.
Although I did play half of this on a mobile, so I can't really talk.
I complained about it.
Cool. All right. Well, Little Nightmares 2 is, what's it, 30 quid? Recommended retail price?
Something like that. I think you can pick it up for about 25, 26 on reputable websites.
Yeah. And that TV edition, if it's still in stock, I think I paid 40 for it. Or 50. No, I paid 50. Fuck. 50. Why?
You paid 50. I basically paid 35. How does that make you feel?
Fuck you. Shit. And the first one's always on sale, isn't it?
Yeah. As we speak, it's like £7.50.